I'm in Chrome. All right. That's where I want to be. I want to be in Chrome. Okay. So today is Tuesday, the 8th of June, and I am getting ready to get out of here, get out of my office. I've got a dentist appointment this afternoon that I'm going to go to, take care of my precious teeth. Need to do that once in a while. I went for 5 or 6 years without going to the dentist. Not a good idea. When I went back, I had quite a bit of work that needed to be done. And so now I go about every month. Hello from Calgary. Oh, Lynn, welcome. Thanks for dropping in. How are you doing? I'll invite you up just in case you care to join in. Don't really have anything specific that I was doing today. I got one of those messages that says if you broadcast, you'll get 1,000 coins. So I thought, well, got to have 1,000 coins. I want to spread the coins around, right? If I've got 1,000 more to give out, I'm all for that. If all I have to do is broadcast today for 1,000 coins that I can spread around, good deal. Yeah, no worries. This is actually later than I usually broadcast tomorrow. So about 21 hours from now, about 20 or 21 hours from now, I'll be broadcasting again. I'll be doing my regular my time Wednesday. So for most people, it's Tuesday evening, right? I got the message yesterday for your coins. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah. That's a really nice feature, I think, of HAPS. It's good for them. It encourages people to broadcast at least once a week and so on. But it's good for the broadcasters to encourage them to broadcast, not only to broadcast, but to, as I said, share the wealth with the other broadcasters out there and spread the wealth around. It's Monday, 10:21 p.m. here, right? Yeah. So about 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, right? So about 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. Let's see. 3. And maybe 7 o'clock. Yeah, about 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, I should be online again. I may be online before that. I may be online. I may be broadcasting as early as 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, your time. Which, what I usually do is I do my, which is, my at playing something like Family Feud, but I call it Friendly. Those are all friends, and it's a good time. Sometimes you get. Lately, the games have gotten a lot more competitive. A lot closer all the way to the end. The first games, we had a couple of strong players that seemed to dominate, but now we've got a lot better balance, and so don't know who's going to win until get right down to the end, which makes it fun for me and for the players also. And also, I've found a little bit better questions, better data. I started out, I only had 3 or 4, the top 3 or 4 answers to a question. And now I've got mostly 6 or 7 answers to the question. sometimes only 5, but 5, 6, or 7 answers for top 5, 6, or 7 answers for each question. So that makes it a little bit better, spreads the points out a little bit more. Yeah, people seem to enjoy it. So far, I think the largest crowd I've had is only about 8, or maybe I might have gotten up to 10 players once, but generally it's around 6. 6 is a pretty common number of players, which is good. That, like I said, that keeps it competitive and gives everyone a chance to win. So I usually will start my broadcast by talking a little bit, maybe talking about whatever's going on that day, and then play the game. And then after my game, I usually have my Layman's Philosophy broadcast. I'm a layman when it comes to philosophy, but I do enjoy philosophical discussions. And so what I've done is, again, I've Googled, right? I love that new verb there, Google, right? I've Googled for philosophical questions and found a list of questions, and I just pick out what seem to be interesting ones for the next broadcast. And my friends and I sit around and talk about those philosophical questions, whatever they are. We are all laymen, but we all have our own viewpoint on these ideas, right? So I think it's kind of fun. At least it's fun for me, and that's the main thing, right? I mean, let's see. June 16th. Now, let's see. Let me go back to an older one. So last week's questions, June 2nd it was last week. June 2nd we had questions, and that it seems like they were pretty interesting. Here they come. Let's see, slideshow. Yeah, so there we go. All right, so Layman's Philosophy is the name of my broadcast. And last week, what rights does every human have? Do those rights change based on age? And just to summarize my ideas there, I think that objectively, I mean, if we go from, looking from the outside, so to speak, then humans don't have any absolute rights. We only have the rights that we as humans agree that humans have. I think it's important that we agree that we have those rights, and that we do everything within our collective power to make sure that everyone can exercise those rights. So my major point with this question was, what rights does every human have? If I really answer that literally, I say, they don't have any, because we don't actually all agree on that. What rights should every human have? Now, there I have a lot of ideas about what rights should every human have. What rights people should have. I mean, I believe that people should have the right to clean air, to clean water, enough food to eat, a sheltered place to live. I mean, yeah, everybody, nobody should be living out on the streets. Nobody should be starving. No one should have their health threatened because they're forced to drink water that's unsafe. I mean, that's, in our world, it's not necessary. We have the resources to do that. What about the right to die? Yeah, that's one that I agree with. Yeah, yeah, I believe in things like euthanasia, in assisted suicide. The right to choose your own time to leave this world. And it seems to me that is, I mean, we can't choose to be born. It seems to me that the ultimate choice that I think we should have is when, and if possible, how to leave this world, right? I mean, obviously with accidents and this, that, and the other thing, we can't always choose how we leave or when we leave. But if that choice is possible for us, people have lived a long life, and they have reached a point where their body is no longer in the condition that they feel is the condition that they want to exist in. They don't feel that's a good fit anymore. Then yeah, they should be. I mean, I think that they should have counseling. I don't think, because people go through bouts of depression and so on. They might make decisions at that time based on ideas that haven't been thoroughly explored. That they need some kind of, or they should have some kind of professional guide them through, not to dictate, but to make sure that they have asked the questions and have arrived at answers that are satisfying to them as to, should they leave this world or should they continue on, given the circumstances. So yeah, I'm all for the right to die. Absolutely. Yeah. Do those rights change based on age? That is really, really difficult for me to say. I mean, it seems obvious that they do. I mean, we're not going to give a 3-year-old the same rights as an adult. If a 3-year-old says, I want to die, and you talk, or whatever, the 3-year-old has the right, doesn't have the same rights. I mean, but they do. So the basic rights. That's some rights don't change, right? So the right to, like I said, to live, the right to yeah, well, that's a tricky one also. The right to live. Does every human have the right to live? Because if we say that, if we determine that every human has the right to live, then it seems like we know we don't have the right to end another person's life, regardless of what kind of heinous crimes they've committed. So it would eliminate the death penalty. And in Canada, we just had a couple married 50 years, both terminal, chose to die. Yeah, I think that's great. Great. I mean, I think that's appropriate. I don't have any problems with that at all. But yeah, I think that if people are going to live, that they ought to have the basics. Like I said, food, water, clean food, or enough food, clean water, and shelter, and education. Probably, I think. Clean air, clean water, enough food, education, and shelter. And I know that there are a lot of people say, well, if they have all that, then where's their motivation to work? Wouldn't they just if everybody has those rights, then where's their motivation to be productive, productive part of society? I think most people would choose to be productive. And maybe maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm naive. But I mean, if all you're guaranteed is just the minimum, if you're guaranteed the minimum, it just seems almost human nature to me to want to have a little more than that. And that requires, and that requires being productive. I suppose there might be people that look for shortcuts that turn to crime and so on, but it seems to me that crime is still exerting yourself. If they have education, if they have their health, basically, because they've got enough food, they got clean water, they got clean air and shelter. Yeah. But people have the right to have all that stuff, but they don't. They have the right to have that stuff. They have the right. Yeah, I guess maybe. I mean, it almost seems to me by saying that people have the right that they absolutely, that as a society, we absolutely make sure that they have those things. It is your right. So therefore, you must have those things. Yeah. I mean, there are people that make the choice to be homeless. They actually do. There are, I mean, not all of them, but there are actually people who choose to be homeless. They don't want the restrictions of actually, being in a home. They would rather live on the street. But I think I'm a little bit hesitant to call that mental illness. The fact that their thoughts don't match mine is a little bit presumptuous, a little bit prejudiced of me to say that they're mentally ill, but they definitely, some of them do it by choice. I think probably most of them don't. But then there are people that live in areas of the world that don't have sufficient amounts of clean water. And okay, so they could move away. Well, that's easier said than done. I mean, somebody somewhere along the line decided that we need these certain little books, passports. We need some kind of papers in order to be able to move across some imaginary line. You look, and there are no lines there naturally. I mean, it's one planet, and yet in order to be able to move from one place on this planet to the next, you have to have some documentation, right? I mean, I didn't sign up for that. I mean, I was born on the planet Earth, so I'm an Earthling. And so the Earth is my planet. Now, the fact that I was born in such and such a hospital in such and such a city in such and such a state in such and such a country, okay, somebody made those distinctions, but it wasn't me. I mean, it's quite clear that I was born on this planet. It seems like it's my planet. I should be able to move anywhere on it that I care to freely. I think that that should be a human right. Shouldn't need any kind of paper to say, oh, I want to go from this place to that place. I mean, you can go there, but that doesn't mean that, you'll be able to provide for yourself and so on. And if you go there, that doesn't mean that, well, that does it. You go there, and if you can become a productive part of that society, then why not? What difference does it make where you were born or who your father or mother was? I don't know. But yeah, so what rights? Yeah, the right to die. I'm with you there. People should have the right to die. Absolutely. And do those rights change based on age? Have you always lived in Japan? No, only for 33 years. So a little over half my life I've lived in Japan. I was 28 when I came to Japan, and I'm now 61. So yeah, 33 years in Japan. But, I had to get a visa. I had to demonstrate that I had work in order, or no, not work. When I first came to Japan, actually, the first time I came to Japan was in 1985. And then I just needed a tourist visa. But again, I had to have a stamp on my paper, that allowed me to visit this country. I mean, hey, why should they have the right to say, no, you can't look at Mount Fuji if you're not Japanese? We have the right to say no. Why? This is still my planet. Just because Fuji-san is physically located in Japan doesn't mean that Japanese are the only ones that can look at it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm still kind of vague about it, but yeah. Hello from Denver. Hello, Eleanor. Okay, welcome. Yeah. I think people should have the freedom, to the freedom of movement. I mean, it almost seems like we are allowing ourselves to be imprisoned. In one sense, if you're an American, you're only guaranteed the right to move around within America. Other countries could say, oh no, we are not allowed in here. Now, what? Oh, hello. Oh, yes. Oh, you're saying hello to her. Yes. Let's see. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to me. One planet, one people is kind of the way I think. So yeah, freedom of movement. I wish that, I know, that there are people that worry about, things like immigration. It's like, oh, geez, people can freely, go to any place they want. You're going to have a bunch of people from poorer countries flooding into the wealthier countries, like Central, South America, moving into America and the United States and so on. And trying to stay there because they are seeking a better life for themselves and their family, their loved ones. It seems like a reasonable thing to do, if the opportunities in the place where you're currently living are insufficient for a reasonable life, then going to another place that has greater opportunities seems to make sense. Hello from food distribution warehouses. Grilled cheese, okay. We only have restrictions because we may have made up borders, but who can really own land that belongs only to the earth itself? Exactly. Right? What country lets the most immigrants in? I don't know. I would say it used to be America, but I doubt it anymore. But I don't know. I'd have to Google that and do some research, and I have a feeling that you might find conflicting information, based on what kind of statistics they use, I don't know. There are definitely some that are much more restrictive. I mean, Japan is pretty restrictive. It's not easy to come. I mean, it's pretty easy to tour here. They want the tourists here, but immigration, it's not so easy to immigrate here. Or at least it depends. It depends on a lot of different things. I mean, a lot of Japanese are racist to some extent, it's kind of interesting because Japanese are some Japanese, and I'm not talking about all Japanese, but there are Japanese that have a kind of inferiority complex toward white people, toward Americans and Europeans, and not necessarily just white Europeans and Americans, but maybe most especially because they're visually, the most striking, and they don't have so much interaction with blacks as a whole, and so most of the information they have about black Europeans or Americans is from movies, which are obviously not very representative. Yeah, but yeah, it seems to me the right to move ought to be a right. But then how do you? So I've got the right to move, then I ought to have the right to stay where I am. And so what are you going to do? Okay, you've got the right to go wherever you want. If you can be so we're then we put conditions on it. Well, then it's not a right anymore, right? If it's a right, then there shouldn't be conditions on it. So maybe that's not what I'm talking about. Maybe we're not. I'm not talking about a right. Maybe I'm going to talk myself back into there being restrictions. Because I do want the ability to be able to go anywhere on this planet that I care to without having to ask somebody's permission first. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of against the whole concept of land ownership myself. I own land, but simply because, I mean, that's yeah, it just seems like a strange concept to me to own land. I don't know. None of it makes very much sense. None of it. What was my next question? Do animals have rights, and do those rights extend to all animals, or do the rights change based on the complexity of the animals? We should have the right to the air in our lung, to the food we can raise and grow, but I don't believe we are actually given those rights. Yeah, the air in our lungs. Well, I mean, the right to the air in our lungs. I mean, to a certain extent, we have that right that they can't really take away from us unless they kill us, right? But we don't necessarily have the right to clean air because there are places places that are not clean. The food we can raise and grow. That's something that I've heard about America. People that within urban areas, within cities and so on, people can't grow foodstuffs on their own land. They are slowly killing us with all the pollutants in the air. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yeah. Konnichiwa. Hello, Tiara. Yes, welcome. Long time no see. We have those kind of things, the pollutants and so on. We have the power, actually, to change things. It's just, difficult to utilize that power. We have the power to change things, by choosing where we spend our money, right? We could, be very careful and do a lot of research about the products that we buy and what kind of companies those are, and are they environmentally friendly in their production and so on. I live in the city and we just finally got a community garden this year. Yeah, community garden. So that's like a space that everyone can share, right? But what about my land? Okay, in my backyard, behind my own house, or in my front yard for that matter. Why on my land can I not grow food for myself? Now, I know there are concerns, right? If you have food crops growing, wild animals may come into that area that would not normally come there because they're foraging for food. They're searching for food, right? So, I understand those arguments, but then again, it's my land. Just because it's my land doesn't mean I can do absolutely anything on it, right? If it impacts other people, right? So it's my land. Well, if somebody, somebody comes onto my land, right, and they're not threatening me, or to, I don't have the right to take their life or to injure them. Even though it's my land, I can't do whatever. I can't do absolutely anything on my land. You're off to bed. Oh, sorry, I missed that one. Yeah. Well, thanks for dropping by. Just tune in again tomorrow. A little bit earlier than this, about 3 or 4 hours earlier than this. I'll be online again tomorrow. So we can't do things, even on our own land, we can't do things that are injurious to other people. And so by that argument, okay, growing food that might invite, unintentionally, but might invite animals who come to forage and so on. Yeah, to some extent, yes. But if you're poor, you really may not have the option sometimes to do what they called vote with your dollars. Sometimes you just have to buy what you can afford to feed your family. Right. That is a good point. But even those of us that can vote with our dollars are not enough of us, I would say. Those of us that have the option, because we make other choices instead of choosing the most ecologically responsible companies and so on. We will choose cheaper products that maybe are not manufactured by or not produced by companies that are so responsible and so on, and instead use that extra money to, in other ways, right? For other forms of entertainment and so on, or again, that it seems to be our choice, and the trouble is, we've, with what, almost 8 billion people on the planet, it's hard to get people to come to any kind of agreement as to what should be done, right? It's very complicated. And animals, do animals have rights, and do those rights extend to all animals? Yeah, I think they have as many rights as humans do. Oops. Really, I think they do. There's nothing, I don't think, really anything special about humans, other than the fact that I am one. I mean, that prejudices me. That makes me want to think that humans are somehow different, superior. I don't know, compared to animals, but objectively speaking, if I were, looking down on this ball of dirt and water with these few scattered life forms on the surface there, would I really see humans as something special? I mean, they're obviously a different species, but would I view them as having any more rights than the other life forms? I mean, life form is life form, right? I don't know. Is justice a human construct, or is it independent of humans? I feel very strongly that justice is a human construct, because what is just, it gets to be a whole debate, kind of the things that we've just been talking about. Again, I don't think that you can define justice outside of the human context. We can all do something, but the matter of it is that we all have to do it. That's where we always feel we can't all come to a consensus on what we are going to do, but we can't even come to a consensus on what is real science and what isn't real science. That just seems silly to me. Yeah, I mean, generally the people that want to dictate to us, dictate to people, what is right and what is true and so on, have their own agenda for doing that. Those of us that, I guess we feel, that we know what, I feel that I have a pretty good grasp of what science is, and so on, but I don't want to dictate that to others. I mean, that it seems that that's something that you couldn't force on someone. And it's a 8 billion people are just never going to agree on anything. So democracy, world democracy, or whatever, democracy of any form, is a kind of a dangerous idea. Democracy basically means that majority rules, right? So if you've got some question that comes up and you put it to a vote, right, then whatever the majority say wins, right? It's strictly here, there aren't any animals that are serving or seeking justice, right? well, not only animals. I mean, if we could imagine, extraterrestrial, intelligent extraterrestrial life forms, justice. Yeah, I don't know what that would be. It's a human concept. Yeah. But like I was saying about democracy basically comes down to might makes right. Might makes right. Because if it's a democracy, what does that mean? So more people, um, have chosen this as opposed to that, and so the majority rules, right? The majority rules. Why does the majority rule? Because they've got more power on their side, basically. I mean, might makes right. So if you know. If you believe that a law is, it always seems that those that should be leaders and be in charge are too smart to want to be, and those that want to be shouldn't be. Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, yeah. The good people don't want to have uh, control over others. I mean, it's if you think about it, it's just a natural development that bad people will go into politics. A few, so there are some good people that go, they want to go into politics. They want to help, the same people that, it's the same kind of what we see in all different occupations that have some sort of power in them, right? There are people that want to become policemen to serve their community, to help people, right? To keep them safe and so on. And there are others that view it as a way of getting power or circumventing, the law or restrictions on themselves, by being that type of authority. Trouble is, it's the ones that are the most dangerous ones are the ones that are really smart and have bad motivations, right? Um, they're smart enough to get away with it. They have bad intentions and they're smart enough to get away with it. Yeah. And there are a lot of people that aren't very smart. I mean, there are a lot of people that are very smart. There are a lot of people that aren't very smart. There are a lot of people in the middle there, right? Most people are in the middle, but even when you're in the middle, there's a bunch of people that are smarter than you that could persuade you of ideas. They're smart enough to be persuasive. And yeah, that can be dangerous. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I don't know what to do. I mean, it almost seems that the best solution is. No, I absolutely believe that the best solution is to break up societies into small groups. There should be no large countries. America is too large. It should be. I mean, it should be 50 different countries instead of one, right? There shouldn't be, a United States standing army, and neither should there be Russian or whatever, there shouldn't be so much power concentrated into so few hands, right? So the larger the groups that you're controlling, the more power that you have, right? So if we divide these countries into much, much smaller groups, and even within the countries, there are more, tribes. Tribes, absolutely. That's the way to go. The trouble is, you get someone who is, again, smart and a gifted speaker, persuasive, and he uses those powers not in a good way, but in order to collect, people around him, and then come to influence the neighboring communities and so on, and get them, say, hey, yeah, actually, we want to join him. I mean, let's imagine, for example, that we could divide up the whole world into tribes, right? Okay, so there's no more armies, because the tribe doesn't have an army, right? Maybe you've got the the tribal sheriff or whatever, and so on. But so if things were like that, they would be fairly safe. If you know everybody, or you basically know everybody in your tribe, right? You're less likely to to lie, cheat, and steal from someone that you have a close relationship with than someone who is anonymous to you. So let's imagine we could get to that point. I mean, I think that's probably kind of the way we imagine that the human race started, is that we were tribal, and then those built into larger and larger groups, right? But yeah, again, that influential leader in some group start putting more and more groups together. Who's going to stop him? There is no overseeing group, right? You say, oh no, that's not allowed. Okay, but who's going to enforce the idea, the rule that that's not allowed? So it just doesn't work. All right, I got a dentist appointment. I got to go. Hey there. So it's been real. Thank you for dropping in. Eleanor, thank you. Tiara, if you're still around, thank you. Lynn was the first one here. Thank you. I appreciate you all. And like I said, I'll be back in about 20 hours, maybe 19 or 20 hours from now. I'll be back online with my regular weekly broadcast. So thanks for joining. Man and ego seems there will always be someone seeking more, seeking power. Those people are always, we can't have nice things. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It plays on the fact that humans are basically social animals, and they take advantage of that. Yeah. All right. Like I said, I got to go. It's been fun. See you again tomorrow. Please come back again tomorrow. Let's see you then. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.